Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France for the 2026 G7 summit has once again underscored the deepening warmth and substance of India-France relations. In a significant bilateral engagement, PM Modi has held extensive talks with French President Emmanuel Macron following the successful launch of Bharat Innovates 2026 in Nice. The two leaders later shared a warm and candid moment at the historic Villa Kérilos on the French Riviera, a setting that beautifully mirrored the enduring cultural and strategic affinity between the world's largest democracy and one of Europe's leading powers. This personal touch, set against the elegant backdrop of the Mediterranean, reinforced the trust and mutual respect that have become hallmarks of the Indo-French partnership. Earlier, PM Modi and President Macron jointly inaugurated Bharat Innovates 2026 at the Palais des Expositions in Nice. The initiative highlights growing collaboration in cutting-edge innovation, technology and deep tech sectors, while firmly positioning India as a rising global hub for advanced technological development. With us live now on the broadcast is Ambassador Sushil Shingal, former diplomat. We have Sumit Peer, political commentator, joining us live. M.K. Agarwal, economist, also is now with us live. Ambassador Shingal, let me make a start with you first. How crucial is this bilateral meeting today and the entire visit by Prime Minister Modi to France in taking our partnership to a whole new level? What are you keeping a close eye on today in terms of the discussions and MOUs signed?
Well, thank you very much, Uday, for inviting me to your channel. This is a visit of the Prime Minister Modi to France. It has a multi dimensions, right? It's a bilateral visit as well as participation in G7. This is the 8th consecutive year when India has been invited to attend G7. We are not member of the G7. And it clearly shows first that the economies of the world see India as to be an important partner and need for the conversation with India on supply chain, technology, AI. And the Prime Minister himself also said that India will not speak for itself only, but also talk about the global aspiration. So India is going to represent in G7 the global South. Coming to the bilateral meeting, this bilateral meeting between President Macron and Prime Minister Modi, I think it has set the tone, which is, I think, on a upward trajectory in our relationship. In last February, when the President Macron visited India, at that time, we elevated this relationship to a different level. We gave the name Special Global Strategic Partnership. And it's coming on the backdrop of the completion of 25 years of India-France strategic partnership. So it's a continuum. And we, both sides, as we know, adopted this Horizon 2047, which is to revamp the ties for the next phase. This visit, I think, will be focused on, one, I see the defense, everybody is talking about the defense, Rafale, because 114 Rafale we are planning to buy from France, so which is an important development for the both countries because its figure is very large. But I don't see any, announcement. But surely there will be discussion because there are a lot of issues. The defense partnership, because India is no longer is a net importer. We are also now core producing. So I think this partnership will be talked about, today morning, today afternoon Indian time. Sorry, Bharat Innovate was inaugurated jointly by President Macron and Prime Minister Modi. And their speeches, I think, were very indicative how both are looking at this partnership. And I think that they must have carried on the discussion during their bilateral meeting. Technology, I think they will talk about civil nuclear. This is another important area which would be discussed because we know France is a leader in the nuclear energy sector, and India is looking to wrap up the civil and the nuclear energy production in India. and we are looking for the small reactors and other technology. Now we opened it to the private sector, which was mentioned also by the Prime Minister in his speech. So I think that will be also very important area of discussion, and also the geopolitical situation around the globe. I think that will be discussed, including the Indo-Pacific. I see that because again both the Prime Minister Modi and the President Macron, though it was a technical event, but still they talked about these areas. I see that there will be more cooperation, more understanding in these areas. This is what I will be looking for in this discussions which have taken place. Thank you for that.
Yes, Sumit P, let me draw you in here on, of course, the bonhomie as well that was on display. You know, from selfies to hugs, one saw the personal friendship that Emmanuel Macron and Narendra Modi have. How has this also helped the India-France relationship over the years?
Uday ji, thank you very much for having me on your show. You know, when it comes to Prime Minister Modi, he is a global leader now with a stature which no other leader in the world is, because if you are the longest serving elected prime minister of the world's largest democracy, by default that is a gold standard which you have already achieved and which nobody else has so far. And if you look at all the leaders around him, nobody has such a big political acceptability, credibility and election winning capability than Prime Minister Modi. So today world is queuing up to have good relations with India, and so with Prime Minister Modi. You see, when that event happened, I think thousands of leaders across the world tweeted Prime Minister Modi's picture with them. I have not seen such a global event happen in politics. It was a political event of a particular person, but the world was with it. Everybody was pretty much on the social media tweeting pictures with Prime Minister Modi. So the magic of Modi is that he has personal relations with everybody. The chemistry of Modi is that he makes it with everybody work. He can handle from a very volatile President Trump to a very, very aggressive Netanyahu to a not much speaking Mohammed bin Zayed. That is the magic of Modi. Now, if you look at Mr. Macron, when I look at the bonhomie, when I look at the hug and all, I think Mr. Macron was celebrating Prime Minister Modi being there. He was hugging him like it's like a chota bhai meeting a bada bhai. It was that kind of a chemistry. It was not no longer that friendship and respect only. It was much beyond that. I have seen this time he was happy Prime Minister Modi was there. And wherever Prime Minister Modi goes, usually the kind of support he gets from the diaspora and all is phenomenal. I mean, even Trump has said that it's very difficult for me to get so many people in a stadium what Modi can get. I mean, quote unquote Trump. So now when you have that really magic, revealing itself, the things go to a different level. Now, if you look at the tangibles, we are the fastest growing big economy in the world. You're the only economy which is giving impetus to the world growth today. Our economy, our democracy, and our values are helping the world to drive, to steer through these very turbulent times of the world economy is in. And look at our economic dividend. Look, we are controlling 40% of the food basket of the world. We out of 25 sectors, there are around 25 sectors, there are 24 or 23 in which India is number one, number two, or number three in the world, wherein our production and our things are helping the world to grow. We are a de facto leader of the global south. And besides that, Prime Minister Modi is a man who understands vision, technology, and ecosystems very well. For example, India is the third biggest ecosystem of startups today. And traditionally, startups have been associated with Americans only. But Prime Minister Modi with Bharat Innovates wanted to build even a redundance in that, with France getting into the picture. Like, look, before meeting President Macron today, he had a meeting with these venture capitalists where I discussed what can be done, what are the possibilities that are open. Then Bharat Innovate, which is a fantastic thing where our entrepreneurs, there's our startups can be talking. And France has become our number second weapons supplier with it, and it might soon become number one because of the Rafale deal. France is one of the most powerful economies in the Europe and a very friendly country towards India. And besides weapon deals and all, there are a lot of things which we are cooperating on the front. For example, AI. Just before that event, Anthropic AI suddenly said that there's a version which is what a lot of ICE might be using today is out of control, and the American government has advised them to cut that version to every foreign supplier.
Yes.
Foreign user. Now, with those things happening, we have already a sizable tie-up, and there's a lot of there's a lot of equity we share with the French in AI. So startups, defense, weapon systems, AI, technology, bonhomie, culture, and the things are growing and growing and growing. And you can
Right.
see is Prime Minister, the President Macron had from Prime Minister Modi. He has said that India is responsible for a lot of global change in the world. And the beautiful thing is that the global leaders are today acknowledging how India has progressed leaps and bounds under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Like Netanyahu said a couple of days back, pulling 25 crore people from poverty is not a joke. And with all the turmoil happening in the world, we still continue to grow at 6.5%, 7%, and we still have those
Okay.
beautiful
Stay with
elections.
us. Stay with us. I want to quickly take that to M.K. Agarwal on the economic aspect of this visit as well. How timely is this visit, and how important is it to elevate trade ties? They already stand at very high levels, but can we up that further in terms of the trade relationship that the two countries share, Mr. Agarwal? Also, innovation, an entrepreneurial spirit that was spoken about today. How much of convergence do India and France have in this sphere? And how important is this opportunity, this event in Nice for our entrepreneurs, CEOs, and other innovators, including in educational institutions too?
Uday, if you are monitoring it and trying to understand why Prime Minister Modi is giving 2 days ahead of the G7 summit, because again that is in France. So the logic is very much clear, and France has also been shifting away from investment from China, because when I visited 10, 15 years back twice, so I found that they had a very strong attraction towards China. But with Modi coming in the scene, things are changing, and France is also changing its economic strategy towards India, because the way Prime Minister is investing his time and resources, you will find that there are 13 sectors of technology and innovation that is being hammered today in Nice. And that is quite critical, because if you are looking at all those sectors, you'll be surprised to know that this is the futuristic outlook towards Viksit Bharat. Prime Minister is not going simply to increase or boost the trade in the immediate sense. What he wants, that France is a good destination where the technology can be hammered, because he has been very cordial, or the relationship is cordial to the extent that Prime Minister wants that technology is coming to India. And India is also exporting technology to other countries as a leader of the global south, because India is taking care of the goodness of the global south. So it is in this larger context that Prime Minister is visiting France and discussing bilateral relationship with Macron, because again he is going and getting back to France. So that's why this is getting a long significance in the India-France relationship. For example, if you are looking at the type of relationship in the healthcare or computing, or you can say artificial intelligence, or biotechnology, or healthcare and medicine, there are so many emerging technology where this type of Innovate 2026 is gaining momentum. Because if you are finding France is also somehow squeezed in the energy crisis, already World Bank has limited the growth expectation for 2026 to 2.5% from the earlier 3%. And if this problem is not resolved, growth rate will further slide down, and France will be the also a victim of this type of situation, as already entire Europe is suffering from that. So given that type of situation, it is best time to capitalize on the mutual relationship between France and India. And if you are looking, it is
Right.
not that it is in the immediate, its foundation was laid in February 2026. So that's why we will find that it has futuristic outlook, and its economic benefits would be reaped in the future years. Udit. Uday.
Absolutely. And, we've also seen, of course, Ambassador Singhal, a lot of convergence as far as India and France are concerned on foreign policy outlook as well, on our positions vis-a-vis the conflict in Ukraine is concerned, on our positions vis-a-vis against the weaponization of trade and against the restriction of AI and lack of cooperation on technology is concerned, also convergence as far as the Middle East crisis is concerned. So we have seen a lot of convergence in areas of foreign policy and geopolitics with France over the last few years. Do you believe this has also led to the frequency of meetings and the closeness in our relations between the two countries?
Oh, certainly. France has always been, when you look at the history, France has been an always outlier from the normal, the Western concept or European concept or US policies. So it has never been afraid of, taking an independent path. And so which has, and always, France has always been supportive of India if you look at the history. So there is a convergence of interest, and India is also taking the path of strategic autonomy, options, multipolar world. Similar, the thought, the French side also follow the same principle. So there is a convergence of the strategic thinking, and that is what is reflected in the meetings, and the President Macron and Prime Minister Modi have developed a very good personal chemistry also, because in any relationship, if there is the leaders are comfortable and they are close to each other, things become very smooth. Of course, national interests are always there, but here in case of France, it's a good combination that India, the interest of India and France are on the same page, and leadership is also very well known to each other. So they know each other very well, and so it's reflected in the way they are meeting, they're talking. It's quite clear from that, that level of comfort they both have. And when it comes to other, your question, certainly India and France are partner in development, because when it comes to the global south, India is the leader of the global south, apart from our bilateral side. And when you look at the agenda of G7, I think for the first time, the concern of the global south has been made into an agenda point, which reflects that France also view the global issues, in the same lens as India does, which helps them to carry forward the agenda. And as the President Macron in his speech today mentioned, that France is supporting India's Make in India initiative for the last 10 years. They are the one who have set up factories in India, they have collaboration in India, and has expressed willingness to work with India in all the cutting edge technologies, be it in AI, semiconductors, and as he mentioned in his speech also, that France is the third largest innovator in the world, and India has the skill as well as the markets. So I think this is a convergence of interest also, right, which is, I think, showing in the relationship which has been evolving. This is two new initiatives in this area of new technologies has been launched by India with the France. First was when President Macron visited Mumbai, India in February, and now is this Bharat Innovates. This is also for the first time India has brought so many companies together,
Yes,
which are in the cutting edge, and which has been appreciated
absolutely.
by France.
And there are a lot of goals. There are a lot of goals which have been set. We have to see which will be fulfilled, which will be talked about, which will be perhaps not focused on today, which we will hope for another day. Sumit Peer, these are civil nuclear cooperation, these are fast tracking of the Rafale deal, these are those efforts to get, of course, the Scorpion submarines also built in India eventually. These are raising of our bilateral trade to a whole new level. These are people to people ties in the higher education sector as well. These are, of course, the the ties on AI and tech as well, cooperation. So a lot of convergence, a lot on the table today, Sumit. We'll have to see what is spoken about and what is not. But what are you looking out for?
I think, Udayji, the most important thing is that what we have already spoken about and what has been spoken about, what you rightly pointed out, is the small nuclear reactor, which is very important for a host of things what we are doing. I mean, from power production to, powering of aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines and all. Make in India is something which is very important. AI, we already had a very successful event and summit, and we are tying up with France because the AI world is getting a bit squid with the Anthropic event, which happened just a couple of hours back. And then after that, Rafales have to be fast tracked. We have to look, we are also looking of setting a major MRO for Rafales in India, where the Rafales, whatever have been sold in this region, will be serviced out of India. France is open for a big man and mobility pact. Unlike some of the European countries which want our money but don't like our people. But here the things are different. They're open for a big man and mobility pact. We are already talking of having around 35,000 students to 40,000 students go to France every year for higher education. With American rules changing, with Canada not being so friendly, and there is also some turbulence there, a little bit of that, though we have resolved to a great extent. France is a welcome gateway wherein we see a lot of warmth, where we see a lot of exchange. And the most important thing is that the French are willing to cooperate this and they are willing to accommodate Indian interests and Indian priorities. Like they are willing to set up the biggest MRO of Rafale here. They have the tie-up already with Tatas, where we're building aircraft with Tatas and France are building together. And in the long run, even on the engines, aircraft engines, they're quite open. Safran has already has a setup in Bangalore, and they're willing to do more cooperation here. The good thing about them is that the France is not limiting the scope of possibility, even at the Ariane space level, which was one of the biggest, used to be one of the biggest launches of the satellites and all. They already have a tie-up with ISRO. So if we look at that level, let it be private entrepreneurs, let it be kind of government companies like EADS and all, in which other European countries are also partner. But at the France level, France taking an independent path, France looking this relation not through EU, France looking at more of a EU relation because the FTA is almost going to be signed very soon. The paperwork is happening. Then suddenly a $10 trillion market opens for India. What Prime Minister Modi is trying to leverage maximum from that, and what President Macron is trying is to also have maximum benefits for France from them. And you have already so many countries which are lining up to us for signing those FTAs because after the US and European FTA getting signed and the paperwork getting finished, which is work in progress, suddenly a huge number of options are going to happen, and India is going to see a humongous rise and contribution to the world GDP. And everybody is trying to be here to have that early bird advantage, and the Make in India and other initiatives are the name of the game. Offset what we had a clause in our defense production for so many years is name of the game. Make in India, priority for India, technology transfers. We don't get
Yes.
hiccup like Americans do with French. So those are signs of visible cooperation. They are signs where they endorse.
And in a world where, of course, the economy is extremely volatile and unstable, these partnerships and these convergence areas really helps MK Agarwal. And in fact, Emmanuel Macron, in a very telling comment today, said it's not about anymore will India innovate. It's about who innovates with India.
Yes, very true. In fact, if you are looking at the European Union and India FTA, and then you are correlating much closeness between Macron and Modi. So what is there and what Modi is preferring here, he is not emphasizing on direct trade. What he is looking for, because where your convergence matters more, that is the technology gap between India and France can be bridged, can be compensated by having technology, and that too through innovation. Not it is that established technology only comes, and it is in this context that Industry 4.0 matters, and it is very critical in the coming decade that who can survive, who can grow, those who are having the advanced technology, who are innovating, and who have, critical type of, innovation, not only innovation, critical innovation, and in the new sectors. Because the type of dismantling of the old technology is very rapid nowadays, so disruption is very high. So given that type of situation, Prime Minister is focusing on this type of strategy with France. Because if you are looking at the other economies in Europe, they are not as advanced in terms of technology, or more than that, technology transfer to India, or developing technology in India. in collaboration between the two partnerships. So that's why this meeting is quite essential. And again, I would like to emphasize, if Prime Minister Modi is investing 2 days and again going to Slovakia and getting back to France, so it means this visit carries more than what meets the eyes. So that's why we should look for the innovation, because who can survive, who can grow in the long run? It is not with the established technology, but rather new technologies and meeting the new aspirations of
Yes.
the global order.
Yes.
And here lies the partnership's role in the future.
Okay, we've run out of time. Let's leave it at that. My thanks to our guests for joining us. Slipping in.